Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is the Lambda Chi Alpha Parents Town Hall for parents of associate members. My name is Justin Fisher. We'll get to introductions here in a little bit. But our desired outcome, why we wanted to host this, is that obviously your son or someone you care about deeply has joined Lambda Chi Alpha. And because our daily work involves collegiate age men, we know that they may not have fully told you everything about Lambda Chi Alpha and what the experience is going to be like. So we want to be able to provide an opportunity to do an overview of kind of who we are, and then kind of overview what the experience that you should expect your son to have. So I serve as the Chief Strategy Officer for Lambda Chi Alpha. So that really means that anything growth, marketing, or innovation really falls under my purview. I joined Lambda Chi Alpha when I was in school at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, and I have worked cumulatively for the fraternity for a total of 14 years.
Hello, my name is Noah Dial. I am the Partnership Engagement Specialist at Lambda Chi Alpha. I come from the Iota Alpha chapter at Ball State University. You'll learn a little bit more about those later. But I am excited to tell you more about our for-profit and nonprofit partnerships as an organization. And I'll pass it over to Trevor.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Noah. My name is Trevor, and as it says there, but confusing title, organizational sales manager. So I've done one of everything essentially for Lambda Chi since 2018 when I graduated from the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology, little school kind of right next to Mount Rushmore. But I've traveled to a whole bunch of chapters face to face. I've done some fundraising for the scholarships that we offer, and I'm excited to help co-facilitate with Justin today, as well as Noah and Shelby. So Shelby, I'll pass it to you.
Thanks, Trevor. Good evening, everyone. My name is Shelby Parr, and I serve as the Lambda Chi Alpha Educational Foundation Engagement Officer. So I'm doing a lot of our marketing work and really just getting to engage with a lot of your Lambda Chi members and working with our undergraduates. And I am not a member of Lambda Chi Alpha, but I've been a friend of Lambda Chi since about 2020. I'm affiliated myself, but it's really special to be here working with this organization.
Perfect. All right.
So our agenda this evening, one, who are we? Who are we as an organization? Who do we partner with? What do we do? Why Lambda Chi? So really delving into why we think your son made a great choice in joining Lambda Chi and what benefits come with membership. Probably the one that you all will want to know the most about, what will my son's experience look like? So what can you expect? What questions should you ask? What things should be happening? We'll cover topics such as safety and well-being, academics, scholarships, and mentorship, growth, personal and professional development, and then leadership and career preparation. There will also be time for questions at the end. We'll also share our emails and contact information if you want to reach out. Also, this is being recorded and will be sent out as well. So if anything's covered in here that you want to reference, that'll be made available.
Sweet. Thank you, Fish. So I also want to just mention, if you do have questions, write them down so that you don't forget them, because there's a lot of content going on here. We're going to walk through, when we say walk through, what does my son's experience look like? Basically from day one, freshman year, through graduation and beyond. It'll be pretty cool, and I'm excited to do it. But before we talk about anything, before we even talk about who we are as a fraternity, we have to understand why fraternities exist in the first place. And to understand why fraternities exist, we have to understand some of the challenges facing young men today. So you may have seen some of these. You may have even Googled some of these things over the years, raising a young man. But do we really understand the problem and how bad it can be? A lot of the challenges facing young men today are not unique to this generation, but they're faced in a unique way because of social media and phones and COVID-19. There are a ton of external pressures and fears and bad influences that young men in this country face today. You look at things like tuition. I mean, I'm sure as parents, you feel that especially, but it's quadrupled since 1990. And today, 1 in 4 freshmen actually drop out of college. 2/3 of jobs require a college degree, but only 13% of adults And even less than that of leaders in hiring positions are confident that graduates are ready to work. I'll say that again. Only 11% of people in hiring positions think that college graduates are ready to work. That's quite low, quite low. And then we talk about the mental health pieces of it. There are, I mean, all-time highs right now in anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, substance abuse. We look at the fentanyl problem, and it's especially difficult to discuss, but the suicide rate among 15 and 25-year-old men has tripled since the 1950s. And COVID-19, like I mentioned, has only made it worse with the social isolation, substance abuse, like we talked about. And really, that mental health piece can't be overstated, how tough that is, especially when you're moving to a new environment in college. And so with all these challenges, though, all is not lost, okay? All is not lost because fraternities exist to be a solution. Lambda Chi exists to be a solution to help young men tackle these problems with lifelong support, with a support network. Fraternity members actually report higher levels of positive mental health and less depression than non-affiliated members. And when members seek help, they're twice as likely to turn to a brother than anyone else. That speaks to the real friendships that are being developed, the genuine friendships, that you can be open and honest and vulnerable with one another, which is extremely important among men, which are so often told to be closed up and locked up. And 83% of members indicate stronger leadership confidence as a result of their fraternity membership. What does that tell you? That tells you that they're actually growing and developing as young men and becoming the men that they're supposed to be and really kind of stepping out of their comfort zone. All right. But why Lambda Chi specifically? Why Lambda Chi specifically? Well, if we watch the Google animation again, who is Lambda Chi Alpha? Why Lambda Chi Alpha? All right. The mission of Lambda Chi Alpha, Fish, I'll let you take it from here, but it is to inspire and equip men to lead an ethical life of growth, service, and leadership.
Thanks, Trevor. Yeah, when we say the mission, that's just not something that we have on our website, but that is the reason why we exist. Everything we do, how we spend our resources is all in alignment with how do we achieve that mission. So we have 3 bullet points on that. Create belonging. If we do not do this, then all the other stuff that we do does not matter. And when we say create belonging, I think fraternities often reference brotherhood. We have a great brotherhood, but what does that actually mean? For us, it means we want our men to develop deep, meaningful relationships, right? This goes well beyond they're cool to hang out with. We drink beer together on Saturday. Like, life is hard, right? And there's going to be different challenges that your son faces and may have already faced, right? And we just want them to have a group of people who are going to say, you don't have to go through the challenges that life's going to throw your way alone, right? They're going to be there. They're going to be supportive, someone that's going to be in their life for the rest of their lives. So when we say belonging, that's really what we mean is we want them to feel like they found a community, they found a home away from home. And that's what we're trying to build. Building character. We're a values-based organization. We don't shy away from that. We're very upfront about that. All of our teachings, everything we do is centered around those values, right? And so 18 to 22, or maybe we could expand to 18 to 23, 24. It's a really formative time for someone, right? Especially college-age males, where this may be the first time they're away from home. This is maybe the first time that they have the freedom to kind of make their own choices and kind of live with those consequences. Well, we want this experience to really help them with that process. We want them to become the best versions of themselves. And so the experience, the programming we offer, all geared towards that development. And then develop competence. We want your sons to develop skills, right? And have experiences in which they are able to walk away from school saying, not only do I have this degree, but I have these skills that I learned, and I have these results because of the skills that prove that I have the skills that I'm saying. We're going to get more into this when we talk about career readiness, but that is what we talk about when we talk about competence.
Bingo. We're going to break down all these, like Justin said, but kind of in a nutshell, I want to talk about what makes Lambda Chi unique. All right. So we have a glimpse of why fraternities matter, but why is Lambda Chi the right fraternity for your son? We have 4 items that we hope to convince you of by the end of this. Number 1 is that we have the best fraternal experience from start to finish. Convinced. We work with our fraternal partners, and I don't think it's close. Starting with day 1 of their freshman year, which we're going to cover again, freshman through graduation. Greatest opportunities for growth. We'll show you exactly how Lambda Chi, not just talk, but because of its innovation, especially over the last 5 years, puts your son in the best position to grow personally and professionally, and it gives them the best opportunities to succeed. We're the 3rd largest fraternity in the world. So we'll talk about the grammatical differences between like a chapter and a fraternity, but just know that we have 230,000 living alumni. When you're looking at, hey, trying to get a foot in the door, trying to find connections, I mean, it's pretty obvious that that can come in quite handy. And lastly, the values, like Justin mentioned, the way that we educate our men to treat others, to treat themselves, to strive for greatness, those are lived out beyond just the 4 years of college. These are things that change people's lives and how they live. Now, what are those values, you might be asking? You can see them right here. They spell out the acronym LEADERSHIP: loyalty, duty, respect, service and stewardship, honor, integrity, and personal courage. We're going to talk about how exactly we teach those and live those out so that they're not just words. And now, lastly, before we get into the journey that we're going to take for your son's experience, I just want to quickly make sure we have all the same language packages, like I mentioned, with the 3rd largest fraternity in the world. Some of you may be in Greek life, a fraternity sorority. Some of you, this may be the first time you've ever heard the word. So let's do some quick ground rules, lay the foundation of what we're talking about here. So the name Lambda Chi Alpha, that's the full formal name of this organization. You might hear it referred to as Lambda Chi. A lot of chapters, a lot of members refer to it as just Lambda. I know I did when I was an undergrad at the South Dakota School of Mines. But you might see some abbreviations too. You might see the English letters, you might see the Greek letters, but it's all the same thing. It all means this fraternity. And when I say fraternity, it means kind of the international franchise, right? So different fraternities, different entities have different Greek letters, but we are Lambda Chi Alpha, and we have chapters of Lambda Chi Alpha, which are local groups of Lambda Chi at a specific school. We have 166 of these chapters, which we call Zetas, across North America, a few in Canada. And so we kind of help manage that here in the office, which we'll talk about in just a second. But some other terms you might hear, and if these are confusing, don't feel like you have to memorize these at all, but hopefully this helps a little bit. Our new members are called associate members. Once you kind of graduate out of that 8-week process of being a new member, you become a brother, you become an initiated member. Alumni is essentially anyone, just like once you graduate college, you're an alumnus of school. Alumni are anyone who have graduated and are a brother. You're a brother for life, what we refer to you as alumni brother. And finally, Greek life is kind of an overarching term for either fraternities and sororities or the both of them lumped together. But some other confusing terminology might be the way that we're structured or governed. Like, how does that work? What does the Office of Administration do versus the fraternity versus the chapters? And I'm going to allow Justin to kind of describe how that works.
Thanks, Trevor. I promise this won't be incredibly boring or incredibly long. And I will also note that most of our members also may get confused with some of this. So how we are structured as an organization, we have something called the General Assembly. It meets every 2 years, and this is like the supreme body of the fraternity. And students, collegiate students, make up 75% of the vote. So every 2 years we meet. All the laws, any changes to the laws, the initiation ritual, those all happen at this General Assembly. Now, it is only in session for 3 days every 2 years, right? So every chapter is represented, they come, vote, new laws are created. In between those General Assemblies, we have a board of directors that kind of overtakes all of those responsibilities, or most of those responsibilities, and they are called the Grand High Zeta. The more you learn about Lambda Chi, the more you will understand that we use like Greek terminology instead of commonplace words. If you want to know why, I don't know why, but it makes it extra confusing if you're not a member. But the board of directors, they oversee kind of the strategic vision of the fraternity and when that General Assembly is not in session. Now, Trevor's also referenced the Office of Administration. So that is the people that work on behalf of the fraternity. We all live in Carmel, Indiana, where it is approximately 10 degrees outside right now. So that's very exciting for us. But we really provide education, resources, and support for Lambda Chi Alpha chapters, the students, and the advisors, right? So we really are like a resource or a resource connector. Part of the responsibility is also ensuring that we enforce the laws and policies that are created at that General Assembly. So there's a lot of resource, a lot of training, a lot of support. Really want to ensure that the optimal experience is happening at each one of our 166 chapters. And then we have the chapter. So this is kind of like a franchisee-franchisor relationship, right? So as a chapter, they agree we're going to follow all the laws and policies of the organization. And then the fraternity says you can then use our name, you can call yourselves Lambda Chi, you can use our ritual, etc. So that's kind of the deal or trade that's made. But locally, they really operate on their own. So we have like this might be getting too much into the weeds, but we have like our own set of like dues and fees. But each local chapter then also has their own operating budget of different events they want to do. How much is that going to cost? So every chapter kind of varies in terms of events, what they will participate in, who they recruit. That all kind of changes chapter by chapter, and that makes for a really great experience because Lambda Chi, we have these great similarities and things that tie us together, and then all these differences that bring all of that into one brotherhood, which we really appreciate. They have student elected officers on the local level, and then they're advised by volunteers. Most of them are alumni, but you don't actually have to be an alumnus to serve as a volunteer.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Fish. Now to the meat and potatoes of the presentation. Kind of, hey, what does a day-to-day look like? What is it going to look like for my son on the ground? Now we're going to be focusing on the chapter level, kind of that fourth tier, the local group at the school, the people that your son is going to be hanging out with. All right, what does that look like? So we call this section your son's membership journey. We're going to start, as you can see, freshman year, and we're going to end graduation and beyond. So let's get started. For the first 8 weeks, to start off his Lambda Chi journey, your son will become an associate member. Now, what exactly does that mean? What does it look like? The first thing I want to emphasize is safety and well-being. All right. So way back in 1972, Lambda Chi recognized that it needed to shake up how the world perceived new membership of a fraternity. It's perceived as being dangerous or irresponsible. And how we did that is by first abolishing pledging. Pledging is the standard new member process for essentially every other fraternity. And why does it matter that we abolish it, call it a new name? The problem with some forms of pledging, not all, but some, is that it can create a hierarchy between older members and younger members. And just like in any organization, especially in any like business, any social groups, and a hierarchy can sometimes create unhealthy power dynamics, and power dynamics can lead to bad decisions, including hazing. So what we did, and hazing, by the way, kind of in a nutshell, is essentially just making new members do stupid or dangerous things to prove themselves or earn their keep. What we did is flip the script entirely. And again, we did it back in 1972 before anyone was even thinking about it. But associate members are what has replaced pledging. Associate members are on an equal playing field with every brother, again, from day one, both in words and in practice. So they can run for office from day one, including president. They can wear Lambda Chi memorabilia. They can attend all the events. And most importantly, there is an anti-hazing culture taught from that day one onward. Because if you think about it, the chapter on the ground level, again, at that school, they want new members to continue to grow. The only real way to do that, to ensure that members stick around, is to treat men with respect so that they want to stay and that they want to continue building and that they don't hate their experience. And so it makes sense, right, that we do this the right way and that we treat men with respect. The difference here is that with Lambda Chi, there is no hierarchy. There's no proving oneself beyond, hey, are you a good man? Are you going to have integrity and do what you say you're going to do? And there's no pressure. There's no pressure to do anything that you would feel uncomfortable to do or that you should not do. We want to create a supportive environment where every member feels valued and respected and they have a real chance to thrive. And so Lambda Chi works on ensuring that our members are informed and that they feel supported through our educational programs and our health and wellness resources, and that there are full-time professionals on staff and on the ground level, volunteers that work to make sure that your member has the most positive fraternity experience possible. And so speaking of thriving and giving the best experience possible, I'm going to talk about what's probably on a lot of people's minds. Hey, will this experience affect my son's grades? And the answer is yes, but maybe not how you expect. The answer is yes, but positively. I can speak from experience. So helping in the classroom, I came into the South Dakota School of Mines, which is an engineering school again. Okay, my screen turned blank for a second. Engineering school. It was such a weird school that instead of putting posters for events on the walls, we stuck them on the ground because everyone was so socially awkward. We walked with our heads down to try to avoid eye contact. Just an odd school, but you can imagine people only really cared about the classroom at that school. It was again engineering school, very technical. Yeah, a lot of study time. I came in as a freshman out of high school with like a 4.1 GPA. Never really had to study in my entire life. Just kind of coasted. By the time I got to school, I found out in my first math class, which was my degree, applied in computational mathematics, that I kind of sucked at it. I was failing out in my first math class, and I was like, oh man, is this school right for me? Is this major right for me? I kind of had a little panic attack there. But luckily, I found the fraternity. And counterintuitively to how some people might think of fraternities, it helped me immensely because it created intrinsic and extrinsic motivation to do stuff differently than what I had been doing. So the first thing, right? GPA requirements is to be a member, to experience all the fun things about fraternity. You have to have a minimum GPA. Now, our set minimum at the national standard is a 2.85, but you'll notice a lot of chapters on the individual level have much higher requirements for their minimum GPAs. Things that they might require too is if you fall any below that, you have to go to mandatory study sessions or mandatory office hours or things that you might not normally do unless you were in an organization that either required it or incentivized it or motivated you to do it. Scholarships. This was in the case of mine too. Shelby will talk a bit more about this later, but in a nutshell, there are a ton of scholarships available from us on the national side of things and on the local side of things, whether it's highest GPA or most improved GPA. I remember if in my chapter, if we brought an A on a test into our meetings, we got candy. They just threw candy at you like nerds, right? Because you're a big old nerd because you study, which is awesome. Just fun ways to, hey, do something different. But I think the biggest thing is I actually had friends now that were motivated and incentivized and had a reason to want to help me study and help me learn to study. Whether it was borrowing books from these guys or having a tutor connection from an older upperclassman that had been in that class before, someone who had been in my spot before, someone who, because of our affiliation together and our brotherhood, they were motivated to help me out. They gave me a role model. And I hope it's the same for your son because it's important, especially if you come out of high school like I did, never really having to study. And to continue with that theme of role models and giving you people that are important in your life to teach you good habits, let's talk about role models and mentorship. Oh, first off, I forgot about the sticky note. So we actually have these. We'll talk about the officer positions later. We have a weird Greek letter like Justin mentioned. We call it the High Sigma, but he is our educational chairman, and that person, he is an officer whose job is to ensure academic achievement and cultural development. And so what will happen is members will actually send them their grades each semester, transcripts, and we will be able to hold people accountable. So it's not just a, hey, go study. It's we do what we say. We have the numbers, we have the data. So that's exciting. But let's get back to the role model thing. Mentorship is a huge piece of fraternity, a huge piece of fraternity. Your son will never be alone. He will not have to face the challenges of college by himself. And it's not just the challenges in the classroom. It is the challenges of everyday life, relationships, friendships, money, food, hey, where to live, shoot. But he'll have role models and professionals to look up to and guide him on his journey. The first being, right from day one, a big brother. A big brother is kind of a peer mentor, maybe an upperclassman, maybe just a year above him, but a peer mentor to guide new members, to make sure that if they feel uncomfortable, if they have questions, that he's there, right there with them to answer those questions. Alumni advisors, think of them as the adults in the room. Guys like this guy on the left here, kind of that age a lot of the time. But they have seen 20, 30, 40 years of Lambda Chi and of professional life and being responsible. And so they'll be able to support not only officers, but also individuals that are just either having a tough time or maybe they have an idea, but they don't know how to accomplish that idea. All right, let's learn how to set goals. Let's learn how to track them. Let's learn how to accomplish them. And lastly, the Office of Administration. We have staff members who actually meet weekly and bi-weekly with the leaders of the fraternity to help them and coach them and kind of police them, if you want to call it that. And all of our resources are available 24/7. It's exciting to think about all the help that you can get along the way, because college, if you're going to a new environment, so often you're alone. You're alone until you try to make the right friends. And if you find the wrong friends, I mean, you're kind of the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So if you find the wrong ones, you might be out of luck. This is a way to ensure that you have responsible role models. And actually, I want to throw it to Noah, because he told me earlier today a great story about his big brother, little brother role models.
Yeah, thanks, Trevor. The biggest thing that comes from being a big brother or a little brother really is that mentorship that Trevor has touched on so much. It's really, to me, it was more beneficial to become the big brother one day. And that's kind of what I want to touch on here, is that I was able to meet my little brother, Sam, when I was a junior in college. And I had started to get the ropes through a little bit. I was a second year RA in the dorms, working all around and trying to find my way, even though I was, a little further down this timeline. But meeting with Sam gave me a new purpose in the brotherhood, right? A lot of times it's easy to get burned out when you've been doing the same thing for so long. And when you get to have a new person to teach all the ways and reasons you love Lambda Chi, it is the same kind of formation of that love all over again. And it has became a lasting friendship, being able to meet somebody in college that you say will be at your wedding one day is a great kind of full circle moment. And I bring up this example while we were planning for this presentation because Sam recently has accepted a job with Lambda Chi Alpha as well in the Office of Administration. So he is moving in with me and we are going to seek out this new world together, right? So it's fun to have a lot of these full circle moment and connections from the brotherhood. I'll pass it back to Trevor.
Awesome. Thanks, Noah. Yeah, he's actually recording this from the house that they just moved into together. So roommate. So we've walked through a majority now of your son's freshman year. Let's take a step forward. So in our minds, after you find your footing on the campus, it's really time to figure out who you are as a young man. And that's where we step into our sophomore year. One thing to note before I continue about the whole presentation is that while the slideshow is linear, the actual experience can vary for each student. So the things we'll cover from here don't just apply to freshman year, sophomore year alone. They can kind of come and go as you need, but it makes sense to do it linear. The Ideal Man program. This is a huge, huge innovation for fraternities, not just for Lambda Chi. This is a program that supports collegiate brothers throughout their undergraduate journey and beyond. 4-year kind of professional skill building program, personal journey program to help maximize the experience. So it's focused on developing brotherhood, competence, and character. And its mission is to prepare members for success during and after college. It's kind of a blend of online courses, such as you'd see really in any job, Amazon, Google, that type of stuff, but also an awesome compilation of weekly group educations with the chapter that teach values. You get to debate, you get to act them out, and get people thinking face to face with one another, talking one another, rather than just kind of staying on their phones all day, as I'm sure many of you might have seen, whether it's your son or whether it's your son's friends. I'm sure we've seen at a restaurant people stuck on their phones, right? Things like building good habits, right? Super important. Things like nutrition and physical health, right? And then we get into other different things, mastering resilience, values education, like what is integrity? What does it mean to have integrity? We offer Berkman personality quizzes for members to better understand themselves at a free cost. And then we get into the other things like the year 2, year 3, year 4, developing relationships, leadership and future, how to hold difficult conversations, speaking in public, financial literacy, all these things that last them for the duration of their lives, right? Not just the 4 years. And it's things that aren't taught in the classroom. which is extremely important. This education isn't just in one ear, out the other. This is a school career long education process. So you can see these are labeled years, not just sessions, right? And we do everything we can to have our chapters live these values out, especially through service and philanthropy partnerships, which I'm going to turn to Noah again to describe.
Thanks again, Trevor. So you may be wondering what this gentleman is doing on the picture here. This will rotate between a picture or two, but you'll see that he's breaking a pumpkin, right? And that's a common way that our chapters will fundraise for various things, such as our nonprofits or their local food banks. It's important to me in my role to see how students can get involved with their local community as well as our national partners, right? Our key national partners being the American Red Cross and Movember. But really, the great thing about being part of a Lambda Chi philanthropy experience is that it really can be catered to what your campus is really about, right? What may be successful in Oklahoma may not be as successful in Toronto, right? And it's important to note that we are able to help coach them through all these kinds of things. For the American Red Cross, there's a lot of volunteer service opportunities available, but the main one would be the Sound the Alarm program, or CPR/AED training that we are offering to chapters now. We've got a variety of ways that brothers can give their time to work with the American Red Cross, or they can fundraise for disaster relief, with the most recent hurricanes and California wildfires being on the minds of a lot of our brothers. We've had brothers choose to have bake sales or fundraise around campus, doing little micro philanthropies, small events where they can raise money for whatever the cause may be. Movember is a little bit more of a new and hip kind of philanthropy, recently started in 2003 out of Australia. The general premise of Movember is that we as a whole, you grow a mustache, and when the mustache is grown, it becomes kind of a conversation starter of sorts for the causes that Movember fundraises for, being prostate cancer, the most common cancer in older men, testicular cancer, the most common in younger men, as well as men's mental health and suicide awareness. But you probably are wondering, what does Lambda Chi do? What are some big numbers about why the Red Cross and Movember became such important partnerships to you? So the last year with the American Red Cross, we raised 1,650 units, equivalent to 4,950 lives. This earned us an award from the American Red Cross for being the fastest growing new partner in 2024. This was a big deal for us, and we got a fun little blood drop shaped award in our office. Then, when it comes to Movember, last year we raised $126,672 for men's health. This made us the top fundraising fraternity for Movember for the 4th year in a row. Really, these kinds of fundraising approaches for Movember or Red Cross can, when it comes to a blood drive, for example, it's a lot more, the Red Cross will come in and help your member learn how to do it. They work with an account manager on a daily basis that will help them kind of get set up for the drive, whereas Movember has a lot more flexibility, and members can choose to reach out to their family and friend networks, or host an event like a pumpkin bash that may be a way that they can fundraise for Movember. As a whole, I would love to hear questions about partnerships and how they can affect your experience. For me personally, it was a big way to kind of break the stigma I had about fraternities coming into my college experience. And it showed me that fraternity wasn't just a social thing. It's also something that makes the community around it better. With that, I'll pass it back to Trevor.
Thank you, Noah. And like he mentioned, please be writing down questions that you might have for the Q&A session. We're going to pass this off to Shelby. Speaking of philanthropy and partnerships, our biggest philanthropic partner, the Educational Foundation. Shelby?
Thanks, Trevor. Yeah, as you all heard from Noah, there's so many great things happening on the fraternity side, and the Lambda Chi Alpha Educational Foundation is just so proud to be able to fund so many opportunities that the fraternity is providing. So the Lambda Chi Alpha Educational Foundation, we are a separate entity. We are a 501c3 organization, meaning that any charitable contribution that is made to the Educational Foundation is tax deductible. That's super important for folks to know as they're looking to contribute and really help us create a future for Lambda Chi Alpha. And a lot of those contributions go right back to the fraternity. In 2024, we were able to grant $1.9 million to fraternity programs that prepare brothers to lead ethical lives of growth, service, and leadership. Everything ties back to the Lambda Chi Alpha values, including the work that we do and the programs that we get to fund. Some of the things that we get to do are fun programs like Trevor had mentioned before with the Ideal Man program, as well as Stud Leadership College, which both of those are online programs and platforms that allow your member to really just develop both personally and professionally. These are things that other fraternities are just not providing in the same scope, and so we're really proud of all of the work that's been able to be done there so far. Those will be talked about a little bit more in the coming slides. So I'll stop there on kind of those online platforms, but we'll continue talking about the Farkas Fellowships. This is a summer internship program that the Educational Foundation is able to grant the funds for through the fraternity. And so Lambda Chi Alpha members and friends are able to apply for summer internships. We've historically had interns work on our marketing team, on our foundation team, expansion team, and we're really just able to help create a really unique experience for them, depending on what skills they're looking to learn and apply for their respective career fields. Those Farkas Fellowship applications are currently active, and so if you type in Lambda Chi Alpha Careers, you or your Lambda Chi can find some of the opportunities that we have available for summer 2025. And we're also really proud to be able to sponsor so many of the in-person conference experiences that the fraternity facilitates. There's, as we've talked about, there's so much value in belonging and just creating a sense of brotherhood. And there's nothing quite like being in a room full of Lambda Chi brothers just talking about their own unique experiences. And the Educational Foundation is just really grateful to be able to contribute to those experiences. And lastly, a really huge piece about the Educational Foundation is that we're able to we're able to provide so much financial aid for Lambda Chi members to apply for. So last year we had 60 brothers receive scholarships, with the average scholarship amount being just over $1,500. And our goal is to always increase the number of brothers that are receiving aid and to always increase the amount of money that we're able to give away to them. Scholarships are currently open until February 28th for this year. So you or your Lambda Chi can access the scholarship link by scanning that QR code that's down there in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, or by searching Lambda Chi Alpha scholarships. Trevor had mentioned this at the very beginning of the presentation, but we have both international and general fraternity scholarships that are available, as well as many chapter-specific scholarships. And so you may find some that are very specific to the campus that your Lambda Chi member is attending. We encourage everyone to apply to all of the scholarships that they meet the criteria for. And you can see here on the right-hand side of the screen, we have Brother Drew Collins from Denver. He had given a great testimony, but we could really sum it up with the quote of Lambda Chi Alpha is a brotherhood that's given him lifelong friendships and invaluable experiences. And he had applied for a scholarship really early on in his academic career, and we're just really grateful that we get to invest in Drew and other brothers like Drew to help him be successful in the chapter, on his campus, and beyond.
Excellent.
Yeah, and lastly on this, not only do we provide scholarships, but we're also able to help brothers through our Anchor Fund. And the Anchor Fund was born out of brothers experiencing need from different natural disasters and circumstances that have approached them but are out of their control. So since 2019, we've been able to award nearly $50,000 to almost 100 brothers that have been affected by natural disasters. And so hopefully this is a resource that you or your Lambda Chi will never have to take advantage of, but should one of those things come up and affect your personal life, there is a way that Lambda Chi Alpha can directly support them and provide some immediate relief. So again, we're just super thankful that we get to support Lambda Chi in this way, and there's a lot of opportunity out there for brothers to benefit from the Educational Foundation. Thanks,
Awesome.
Trevor.
Awesome. Thank you both, Noah and Shelby. So we've looked so far, kind of taken it step by step, right, at belonging. Now we've kind of looked at the character and developing yourself and the philanthropic partners. Now we're going to step it up into junior year and maybe look at professional development. So when it comes to leadership and skill building, and just as a reminder, even though the presentation is linear, right, doesn't mean the experience is. So all these leadership positions that you see, each of them kind of having designated Greek words, all these leadership positions you see again are open to any member from day one. And in fact, we encourage people to run for election early so that by the time, that they gain experience by the time they are a junior. We have 12 officer positions that are elected each year, and you can see that they directly relate to real world leadership positions. And so this leadership, regardless of the age they do it, freshman through senior, sets them apart from their peers by miles. How? Running a fraternity is the earliest experience you can get at running what is essentially a small business, right? As Justin mentioned, these are self-governed entities. They have budgets. They have chief executive officers. They have sales departments, right? They have budgets that they have to use to hold events, to plan things, to accomplish goals. Because of this, the stats show that fraternity alumni are twice as likely to feel that their college experience prepared them well for life after college and that they gained important job-related skills, twice as likely as unaffiliated members. Now, not only this, but we are the first and only fraternity to officially certify our leaders with online digital credentials. Now, these credentials, you can put them on LinkedIn. They have this metadata that spews it out all over. So not only is it kind of promoted on their page, but the metadata goes out to all these applications like ZipRecruiter and all the online things that, scan for different words and scan for different accreditations. It actually gets their foot in the door quicker than any other thing that they could possibly do, right? Same as like Amazon and Google and all these things that are offering these certificates. We are now the first and only fraternity to do so as well. This helps members stand out amongst their peers when they're applying. This is what separates them when they step inside that interview room. And so what do these badges look like? These purple badges that you see here on the left are exactly what you'll see on their LinkedIn. This program, as you might have seen in Shelby's slide, the STED Leadership College. This is the course. This is the program, the academy, if you want to call it that, where we offer professionally made, detailed courses. So similar to those, again, Apple, Amazon, that teach you how to do the job, that certify you. There are 3 distinct things that we train in these programs. Number 1, leadership ready. So this prepares brothers in general to be a leader on their chapter management team and beyond. Role ready. So how do we take those leadership skills and apply them to the role that you are in? Marketing, recruitment, right? But it equips the brothers with the skills and tools and resources to be successful in their job. And finally, the most important one, the differentiator here, is career ready. This allows brothers to articulate and to draw parallels between leading a chapter and leading a small business, so that when they're in the interview room, they can use language that's common to everyone in the room. This is again the differentiator between your son and everyone else. And I'll give you a real world example. So I was the High Delta. I was the recruitment chairman of my chapter, and I was going to apply for an internship at Northwestern Mutual to be a financial sales intern guy. When I got in the room and I started talking about my experience, I didn't have the STED Leadership College. So I was able to say, I met with some students and we held meetings and we held events and I got them to join the chapter. But what I didn't realize is just how much we were actually doing. I was the sales manager. I was using a CRM. I didn't know what that was. We were holding closing meetings with prospects, leading them through a sales cycle. I had none of that vernacular. Had I had a program like this and was able to be like, oh man, look at what I'm actually doing. Look at the numbers and the stats that back it up. I would have gotten the job, before I even left the meeting. I still got the job, which is nice, but I would have got it quicker. So the icons that you see, again, are those badges. And with this now, junior year, we've covered belonging, we've covered character, right? The character, who you are. And now we've covered a bit of competence. We're going to move into our senior year. We start really gearing up for life after college. Now, it's safe to say, before I head into this graph, again, to remind you that our existing network of 230,000 living alumni, it's huge for finding jobs. Pretty much anywhere you go in the US, you'll find a Lambda Chi that's high up at a company. Now, I'm going to name a few. So we have such notable alumni as President Harry Truman, Kenny Chesney, the musician, and founders and CEOs. Again, founders and CEOs of such tiny companies as ESPN, Visa, Walmart, AT&T, ZoomInfo, Hershey, General Electric, Mattress Firm, all these, again, founders and CEOs of all these companies and many, many, many more. And that's just the founders. That's not even talking about the levels below and below and below that. But let's put that aside and focus on these graphs, all right? I just kind of wanted to mention that. How does Lambda Chi help my senior student graduate? Well, As you can see here, fraternity members are 20% more likely to graduate than non-affiliated members. That is extremely statistically significant if you look at the numbers. Fraternity alumni are twice as likely to feel that their college experience prepared them for life after college and gained them important job-related skills. And lastly, fraternity alumni find jobs more quickly after graduation. Parents, this one's important, right? They find jobs more quickly after college. 39% more likely to be employed within 2 months after graduation. 39% within 2 months after graduation. And it's more than just getting out of college. Our members, the stats show by survey, are actually getting out of college healthier and happier. So fraternity members are twice as likely to report good health during college. 53% affiliated versus 24% non-affiliated report good health. And to report liking where they live, to enjoy their college experience, which is extremely important too. That's 66% compared to just 36% of the average college student. Okay, we have moved into now the beyond section. So Fish, I'm going to give it to you, but this is talking about, hey, once I'm an alumnus for the rest of my life, hey, what's it like?
Yeah, we have some bullet points on there. I think to really sum this up, we will know we have accomplished our mission if your son in a couple decades can look back on his life and say, I've lived like a full and meaningful life. And by that, I mean, I hope our presentation accomplished this, but we've tried to really position Lambda Chi Alpha as a solution to some of the issues that young men are facing today. And we've had to adapt a lot. We've had to change. We've had to really reallocate where we spend our resources. I think one of the trickiest things about a fraternity is that our, not to borrow a line from Matthew McConaughey, but our students always stay the same age, right? And what they come to school with changes as well. So we're constantly having a moving target. Just a little about my story. So I will be 38 in May. I am a first generation college student. So neither my dad or my mom went to college. I was drilled into my head as a kid that you're going to college. We're making all these sacrifices so you can have opportunities that we never had. And so when I told them I joined a fraternity, only thing my dad said was, "We're not paying for that." And really, what Lambda Chi did for me is it really. I had no idea what to expect about college. I had no idea what I should be doing in college. I had no idea how do you get beyond college and really set yourself up for life after school. And Lambda Chi surrounded me with a group of men who really cared about me, who really gave me direction. I got more involved on campus. I really wasn't involved in high school. And ultimately led me to this job, right? I had such a great experience at school that I wanted to help others have such a meaningful experience. And in my time after leaving Lambda Chi, or leaving school, I should say, I have found that there are countless members, older alumni, who have poured into my life, both personally and professionally, who I can offer them nothing, right? They did this out of the goodness of their heart to care about me, to mentor me, and really have allowed me to kind of be where I am today, in terms of both like professional and personal success. And that's ultimately what we want for all of our members, for your sons, is that, this may be something fun and cool. But my hope is right now, they don't even understand the potential and the impact of this decision. And they're at the very beginning of their journey. But I think we're just so excited, one, that they chose to join Lambda Chi Alpha. And I really want to thank all of you for spending your evening with us and learning more about the organization. So we can move into Q&A.
Yep.
So if you have any questions,
I'll change that slide here. Yeah, Fish, I just want to thank you for that story. In a world where so many people are questioning the value of education at all, higher education at all, a college degree, is it worth it? I mean, to state something like that shows that this is a worthy investment. So let's move into Q&A. Maybe if my slide, there it is. Peyton, I hope you got us covered with Q&A. I can't see anything.
People can just unmute themselves and ask the question. They should be able to, but I don't see anything in the chat yet.
Okay. Can AMs apply for the scholarships? Yes. Shelby, do you want to talk more about that?
I can, but it really is as simple as that. Yes. Anyone that is affiliated with Lambda Chi is welcome to apply to the scholarships. We would love to have your son apply.
Thanks, Jenny. Feel free to unmute yourself if you do have a question. If not, I'm positive we answered every single question that you could ever have. Where can we find more info about the specific? Oh, geez, we got a bunch of them coming in. Okay, about the specific scholarships. James Chirung, James R. Favor, and Jeffrey Steele.
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you are able to visit the Lambda Chi Alpha scholarship, or excuse me, if you're able to Google that and visit our website, you'll initially see some very upfront, pretty generic information about our websites, but that you're able to dig deeper into the more chapter specific ones, or the Jeffrey Steele one with the Alpha Psi and University of Washington, for example. That is all listed there. But if you ever have any more specific questions or just want to learn more, I encourage you to reach out to me. Our contact information will be on the following
next
slide
slide.
here
Yeah.
when we wrap up. But I'm happy to answer any questions or have any follow-up conversations from that.
Yep. I definitely encourage you if you have questions that arise after this, as I'm sure you will. Definitely get in contact with one of us. We'd love to help out. Kelly asked, how does housing work for sophomore year? Now, this is one of those questions, like I kind of mentioned, the distinction between the general fraternity and the office administration and the local level chapters. The tough answer is that it's different for everybody. So I don't actually know. It depends on the school. It depends on the chapter itself. But one suggestion that I have for you is, if you want to talk to an adult, just ask your son for the name and the email or the phone number of the alumni advisor. The High Pi is what they're called at the chapter. He'll be able to give you every rundown, and he'll be kind of that adult in the room. So that'll help out answer that question. Can grad students still be involved? Absolutely. In fact, that's some of our best members are grad students. They've seen it all, done it all, and they can be the role models. Will you please share the slides? We can look at potentially sharing the slides. It's tough with all the animations that I put in there, not gonna lie, but we will absolutely still share the recording at bare minimum. So we'll look at that.
Okay.
All right. Jenny. Oh. Okay. Jenny asks, does each chapter determine how housing works? My son would love to be able to live in the chapter house next year, but isn't sure how that works. Good question, Jenny. I don't know how it works either for the particular chapter, but definitely ask. If you can't get a hold of anyone at the chapter level, like if your son doesn't have the contacts or whatever, you can email us. On the next slide, we'll have our contact information, and we'll do the grunt work of finding out who to get a hold of, just by the way. So definitely keep our contact.
Let's just do a brief overview of housing, since that's come up a couple times.
Good idea.
So at about 60 of our chapters, they have what you would consider probably like the traditional stereotypical fraternity house, right? It's owned usually by a separate entity called a house corporation that's usually run by alumni volunteers. They kind of act as a landlord. There's usually like either an individual lease between members or a master lease between the chapter and that. So that house corporation really would be the one that would be responsible for kind of asking questions about, how do I live in the house? What is the like rental rate? What is that going to be? Most of those have meal plans that come with them. Sometimes that's mandatory. Again, that'll differ really from chapter to chapter. And those are predominantly, we kind of see those like house institutions at like larger schools. So like University of Texas. Well, actually, I don't know if they have a house. But those bigger schools tend to have housing. There are certain schools, like Texas Christian comes to mind, that they have a facility on campus that's actually owned by the campus. So you would go through like university housing to figure out kind of how that works. And then most of our chapters have no official housing. So they may have like 4 or 5 guys that are like, you know what, we should live together. Let's rent a house. And they kind of figure that out on their own. To Trevor's point, to reiterate that, it's really dependent upon your chapter. If your son does not know or you have further questions, please feel free to reach out to us, and then we can kind of we can at least give more insight into kind of what we know of their housing situation.
Follow up on that, Fish. It says interesting about the meal plan. Is that like dining hall at the school meal plan or eating at the house?
Chapters that offer a meal plan, generally it's like an in-house cook at the chapter facility. So they would provide X number of meals a week, certain number of breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Amber asks, what types of educational programming is provided on the topic of alcohol awareness and sexual assault prevention? Great question, Amber. Fish?
Yeah, so I would say we've had multiple programs that we use from other entities, whether that's through Favor and Company, our insurance carrier. They have a sexual assault prevention program. We also, some chapters we facilitated ASTP, which is alcohol skills training. I think that's right.
Not skills like
not how to drink better.
Yeah.
It's really backed in science and how alcohol affects and interacts with your body. We're actually in the process of finalizing the development of this health and wellness program. So this will be something that all members will have the opportunity to complete, and it'll cover a wider range of topics, such as the ones that you referenced.
Alcohol skills training program. Boom. Thanks, Jake. Great questions, everyone, and important topics too. I think that's the biggest part, like that I'd like to reiterate is Lambda Chi is the right choice because we take that into mind right away. I didn't join a fraternity right away until about the end of my freshman year, start of my sophomore year, because I saw all the stereotypes about fraternities, on social media. I kind of am of that generation where I saw it on TV, I saw it on social media. It wasn't until Lambda Chi guys kept begging me to come to this stuff. And I was like, man, I don't want to go. I went to a fraternity education, and my initial thought was like, this is just going to be people doing wall sits or something crazy and screaming at me about memorizing these worthless Greek letters. Man, it couldn't have been more different. I was invited to a group of guys where the entire chapter, they were doing a debate week on the value of integrity, whether it's ever morally acceptable to steal, say that you're homeless or, you don't have any money to feed your kids. Is it ever morally acceptable or is it always wrong? And all this, we had an hour and a half debate on that. And I felt like I was one of them right away. And that kind of powered me forward in it. And it was just it subverted the expectations. It was so different with the education. We proved that we wanted to do it with other education on alcohol skills and sexual awareness and these types of things that matter, especially at that age. It's just a great choice. Lambda Chi really changed my life, and hopefully it changes your son's life as well. Looks like that out of questions. So, and we're wrapping up the hour. Peyton, I'll leave it to you if you want to keep us around. I see one more.
Let's switch it over to the next slide for the contact.
Oh, I'm a dummy. Here we go. There we go. Okay. Yeah, please either take a screenshot of those, take a picture with your phone, or write the ones down. Tips are appreciated. I can share my Venmo if we want. No.
But like Trevor said, there should be a follow-up email tomorrow with information about slides, the overall recording, and as well as this contact information if you want to follow up on any specific questions. But again, thank you guys for coming out tonight, taking time out of your night to learn about your son's journey. And we look forward to hearing from you guys.
Thank you all.